My name is Dasha Ilic from Ethical Journalism Network. You are listening to our podcast with our guests, Jovana Prešić from Istinomer, Serbia, and Branko Čečen from Center for Investigative Journalism, Serbia. We will be talking today about our project Building Trust in Southeast Europe and self-assessment within Journalism Trust initiative that both of your media conducted recently. So we'll start with Jovana. Jovana, what is your general impression about the self-assessment questionnaire? Was it difficult to conduct this sort of ethical audit, as we call it?
We started this process because we wanted to strengthen our position as a media outlet, which work is based on professional and ethical standard. We already make our procedures and financing transparent as much as possible, but one of additional reasons to improve them, also as much as it is possible, is the specific political situation in Serbia, where many professional media and journalists, as well organizations, are often portrayed as foreign mercenaries and similar things. So, and this Istinomer, I'm seeing for sure. We all try to make our procedures and especially financing transparent. And we also have here like media environment that is characterized by a constant violation of Serbian Code of Journalists, similar professional practices. That's also, recorded by Freedom House report, also Reporter Without Borders, similar organizations. And we believe that it is crucial to work and to be in compliance with the professional and ethical standards. And as well, it is important to have external assessors who can evaluate our commitment to non-partisanship, to fairness, transparency in sources, funding. And you said, you asked if it was hard. So I would say that we became aware that our editorial guidelines should be improved in some parts or clarified, and that some procedures should be introduced. We, for example, noticed that we missed some training for editorial staff and training on our ethical praxis. So that's now we are talking about how to organize that systematically, and just to skip that. We just discussed that topic on ad hoc manners.
Branko, when we talked during the process of since that you lead conducting this self-assessment, you said that it made you think and rethink some of the procedures in place. So I'm interested to see what has changed since you filled this questionnaire, and what it made you maybe change in the practice of your media outlet. What kind of policies or procedures?
We are a rather small organization. This questionnaire is a brilliant catalog of what organization should have as policies, as procedures, or what questions it should ask itself if it really wants to be ethical and professional. And it is part of our mission statement that we want to show that even in Serbia, a credible journalism is possible, even under these conditions, which are not very, very happy. And so the thing is, parts of this questionnaire are obviously intended for big and commercial organizations, and then for public services and so on. I was always convinced that even in organizations with small number of employees, you can put in place certain procedures and even certain positions like ombudsman and stuff in somewhat simplified way, but also rather functional. And it made us think how to organize ourselves and put these people in their positions and put these procedures and policies in place and in the conditions that we work in. And it's actually everything is quite manageable. So that's one thing. The other thing, very happy coincidence, is that we are revising the statute of our organization, and we are going to enter the procedure of changing it very, very soon. And this questionnaire made us introduce certain elements into the very statute. And in this way protect our intentions, policies, and our mission, basically. So it was useful from that point of view beyond what we expected. And the third thing, which I think is very important, is that I think that being rather overwhelmed by the volume of work we have and the conditions in which we work, under constant pressures and attacks, and with chronic smear campaigns against us in media, and lack of finances, and so on, even physical space. I mean, even that is a problem, that we can introduce all these procedures, but also at the same time communicate it better with our audiences. And we are also in the process of forming positions and coming up with practices of how to communicate, how to build the community for our users. And this questionnaire also pointed us to the ways in which this should be structured to be ethical and at the same time to be efficient. So I warmly recommend the questionnaire, because it's like all the good questions you should ask yourself as an organization. I mean, from the very professional standard point of view, all the way to the best questions you can ask is the existential questions of investigative journalism organization. And why are you there? And how does this transfer into all of these facets? Okay, I mentioned the communication with our users, but also there is communication between ourselves, and how do we train each other? How do we introduce some very important elements that seemed like ethical questions par excellence into bloody contracts? Because when you hire somebody who's not from your, okay, we're a small organization, everybody's on the same page considering all our standards and you know, the guidelines and code of ethics and so on. But some people will be coming, and they are coming from outside and started working for us, even if they're designers, let alone journalists, freelancers who will perhaps do some work for us. They have to sign contract in which it clearly states that they have to stick with our very, very harsh rules if they want to work with us, and that we can break the contract if something like that is transgressed.
I'm very glad that you brought up good governance element, because the Ethical Journalism Network, in a way, believes that you can't have ethics in place without very good contracts for your staff. So this aspect of kind of the ethical audit, the self-assessment, reflecting in the newsroom and changing the practical work that journalists and media workers and staff in your newsrooms do every day, and also that it reflects in your relationship with the audience. I think it's very important that we kind of emphasize that. I would like to ask you, Branko, in terms of very specific Serbian media landscape and lack of media freedom, according to many reports and studies, what do you think is the most difficult kind of segment of questions to answer or to respond to? Is it the ownership? So this is a general question, not only in regards to TINS, but also in other media outlets. Is it the ownership of the media outlet in Serbia, or is it editorial part, or it is a privacy part? Which kind of segment of the questionnaire would be the most tricky one for the Serbian media?
It is obvious that questionnaire doesn't have as an option, for instance, the model of ownership that we have. So it has to be explained, and it takes some legal lingo, but okay, lawyers are always there to advise you, and you can consult with them and come up with exact explanations. However, I think that most difficult parts of the questionnaire are exactly the parts in which are intended for large and complex organizations which have a lot of stuff, a lot of people, a lot of money, a lot of time on their hands, and so on. We don't. We have like 10 people who work 12 hours a day. whatever you introduce as a new segment of work in your workflow chart, flowchart of your production process, slows down the process, introduces new elements for which you have to have new specializations and so on and so on. However, these are necessary, and coming up with solutions how to do that, even though you don't have that many persons on your roster, it turns out to be very, very useful. But it was difficult to come up with such schemes and avoid the conflict of interest. One person being responsible for two different areas, which should, for instance, check each other, create checks and balances to each other, like management and journalist sectors. Or then again, you see our business models are quite limited. We work exclusively for donations because that's the only way we can be independent. We are working on getting individual donations from the citizens, but all the surveys show that this is a very, very small market and not enough people have enough money or are willing to financially support organizations like ours and so on. So it is, I mean, you're running through all the questions for people who have money and who have commercial income, which we are completely, basically, we are not allowed to have it if we want to stay independent. It's more difficult to look at these things and wish that you were in that good position and to have that option in your life than anything else. So it's not difficult, but it is challenging, I'd say, but it's challenging in a very positive way. It makes you wonder, it makes you think, it makes you come up with solutions which are good for your organization, because at the same time, working in this machine that eats up people, both journalists and editors and management, that tends to make you forget these principal rules and things and policies that you need to have, because they bring also the cohesion and they make everybody in the organization, independent of their position and kind of work they do, be on the same page on the very, very fundamental issues, the reasons for your existence, and that is tremendously useful, and we tend to forget that because journalism is just a very quick and very intensive and very emotional and very challenging profession, and of course managing such operations can be also challenging because you feel a lot of responsibility for people who are not in a very comfortable position in their life, and you should provide them with a normal job. No, that doesn't, it's not normal. So it helps put everything on very solid several rocks, because fundamental issues are connected with every single person that does any kind of job for you. It's more useful than you can imagine. You don't realize how important it is until a problem hits you. When a problem hits you, you see those big gaping holes beneath you, and this will help you avoid such situations.
Thank you, Branko. Jovana, since we will be continuing building trust in the media in Southeast Europe, supported by the EU and UNESCO, I wonder whether you would have a kind of a practical advice for your colleagues, not only in Serbia, but also in other countries of Western Balkans, before they start conducting. How shall they prepare for this? It is self-assessment on the ethical standards within your media. So what would be your advice?
I would say that all of them should just maybe at first think about their own practices and internal rules, to maybe set up editorial guidelines on, if they do not have it, just on paper, to see if they like covered everything that like ownership things, financing things, like much more also important editorial things. But also I would say that I would advise to all of them to involve in this process, because I and Istinomer, we believe that as we are holding politicians and public officials like accountable, it is good that media also should be accountable to its readers, and it's always good to have some external assessors who who can evaluate our commitment to to non-partisanship or fairness, transparency of sources, and similar things. I believe that all of them would just have benefits from this process to use it to recognize if they have any gaps in their practices, and they will see if they can improve their standards. And I believe that all of us can in some certain points.
And one last question for both of you. How the journalists and other staff in your media outlet reacted to this process of rethinking the ethical practices and policies in place?
We're not a very good organization to be asked that question, because we're crazy about ethics, and then we have bi-weekly meetings exclusively about ethical and problems and policies and standards. We are sort of we like to learn, and our journalists and people in management have actually an assignment, a duty to learn about what's going on in the world and see how we can introduce that to our practices, both from the point of view of ethical standards and practical, I mean, what we do every day. So everybody was happy about it. We are in the process of making several rather advanced documents. We are revising our gender code and gender equality code, and then inclusion code, and so on and so, which we have. We are in the process of putting together some other documents of that kind. So we are all very happy, and actually I was quite satisfied once we filled up the questionnaire. I was satisfied how my organization looks to me, and I didn't expect that or anything else, but in the end I was very happy. My advice to everyone who will fill out this questionnaire is to first read it and make sure you understand everything, because many answers and many questions are very interdependent, and you'll be changing some answers if you just fill it out and continue. You should first look into it and then ask the experts and consultants that are offered to help if you find something that you don't understand really well. It would be much easier and much quicker, and it would be easier to see where are the opportunities for growth and which stuff you're doing right already.
Thank you, Branko. Jovana?
We really briefly discussed it due to the fact that we are in our homes. We are not in the newsroom on a daily basis. So, but everyone, as Branko said, we're happy to hear about process and to hear how it will, what will be different now. And actually, not so many things will be different. But for example, the first thing that we in technical way improved is our privacy policy. So in first several days, so we make it now to be in line with the GDPR rules. It's changed things in our Google Analytics data. So it was a bit chaotic, but now they are happy with everything.
Thank you so much for taking part in the Ethical Journalism Network podcast. You were listening Branko Čečen from CINS and Jovana Prešić from Istinomer, two Serbian media outlets that have conducted the Journalism Trust Initiative self-assessment questionnaire.